and attend the session. So before I start, just to know, right, just a raise of hands, how many of you can read Devanagari? Okay, that's 20 out of 40, 22 out of 40, 50%, right? Okay, that's good. And again, another show of hands. How many of you know actually know a bit of Sanskrit, like basic Sanskrit? That's around 19 apparently. Okay, right? So I'll just start with assuming that for people who don't know Sanskrit and who don't know Devanagari, so I'll just go like assuming that I'll start from the basics, yeah. So as we saw last week, Grantha is one of the script to write Sanskrit in Tamil Nadu. It's been used in Tamil Nadu, Sri Lanka, and even up to like what now Andhra and bits of Karnataka, and like of course whole of Kerala now, which it became Malayalam. So right. So today since today we'll only see about the vowels, the basic vowels, and the consonants. Yeah. We have an A, so we'll cover as much as possible for the vowels and the consonants, right? So let me start. Tamil has 12 vowels. How many vowels does Sanskrit have? Anybody? Right. Sanskrit has 16 vowels, right? So it is A, A, I, I, U, U, R, R, L, L, A, I, O, Au. And Aha, right? If we count the Ayogavahas, right? So we'll see them one by one. Let me move to my other screen. I will stop my video here and start my video from the other screen. Right, can you guys see my screen? Let me do something, give me a minute. All right, so I can see what's happening. Like if you want the audio, just raise hands and Vidya can probably unmute you if you have a question. Right, so I said Sanskrit has like a bit more vowels than Tamil, so we'll see them one by one. So the first vowel is A, which in Grantha, it's written like this. This is A, right? It might look like Ka, Tamil Ka, but it's not. You can see there's a loop here, right? So this loop makes it an A, right? So let's see them once again. This is A, right? So how do you have to remember it? It's simple. Let's say, take the Tamil A, right? So if you kind of morph it a bit, it sort of becomes like a Grantha. As you might know, Tamil and Grantha have the same ancestor, pretty much. So you can use that similarity to learn Grantha easily. That's a Su, that's not. you have to write a loop. So basically, it starts like a ka, but you add a loop here, right? This is a, or you want Devanagari, right? So this loop is important, right? It makes sure that it's a and not Tamil sa or Tamil ka, right? That's a. Is everything all right? Then we'll go to a, which is you start writing a, but you had a loop, right? So this would be similar to Tamil a with a loop, right? This will be your a, yeah. And then you have e, this is e. It's not similar to Tamil e, so this is something you have to remember. So this is e, yeah. So consider a, a. Now this is e. Then you have e, it's pretty much similar to the Tamil e, right? E. Then you have u. It's pretty easy. It's same as the Tamilu. Tamil and Grantha have the same u, right? And then you have u, which is same as Tamil, right? And then you have r, r, and you have r, the long version of it. All right. So let's go back a bit and see it again. Let me start from the beginning. Make it a bit bigger. So you have a, a, e, e, u, u, r, r. See, yeah? A, e, e, u, u, r, r. These two are pretty much same as Tamil. This is more or less close to a Tamil e. This sort of looks like Tamil a, right? This also looks like Tamila. If you take like Tamil and kind of squeeze it and morph it and squint it a bit, it also looks like Tamil A, right? So pretty much you have to learn only at most 4 new shapes: your A, your E, R, and R, right? So R, it's quite rare. So if you're just learning to read the stotras and kavyas, it's not like it doesn't occur that often. In a sense, out of these 8 shapes, you basically have to remember only, for all practical purposes, only 3: A, E, and R, right? So that's all wide and clear. Let's move to the next set of consonants. So sorry, vowels. So it's A, E, U, R, and then we have our L, which is basically, so it's like R, but with an L sound. So we have R, L, then you have the longer version of it, the dirgha version of it. Okay, let me, yeah. Which is L. Let me erase it again. So it's actually written. There we go. L, which is basically L. Right. Again, L, you don't use it very often. Other dots. So yeah, so look at that guy. So L, you don't use that often. There's only pretty much one word which Sanskrit has. That's clip, on all the derivation of clip, like klipta, where L occurs. And L, there is not even a single word in Sanskrit that has the longer vowel L. It just exists because for symmetry. There's a longer version of R, so people just added the longer version of L, right? Okay, this not, you know, it's not very commonly occurring in Sanskrit, so you don't have to worry about that as well. Then you have A, which kind of looks like our Tamil A, right? You just have to morph it a bit, right? So as I said, both have the same origin, so you can take, you kind of wink and look at it sideways. You can see that it looks like Tamil A, right? That's A, the dirgha, because Sanskrit doesn't have a graphic letter for the hraswa sound. Then you have I, right? It's basically A with the, what do you call it? Kottakumbal, basically the A vowel marker. That's I. Then you have O. It looks very, very similar to the Tamil O, right? Again, Sanskrit only has the letter, the graphical letter for Dirgha. The Hraswa O, Sanskrit doesn't have it. Grantha doesn't have a particular letter for it. You have O, and then you have A, right? Which is pretty much similar to Tamil A. Yeah. So, and then let's recap it a bit. So we saw L, L, A, I, O, and O. Yep. So that's your vowels, your basic vowels, right? Apart from that, you have your two ayogavahas, yeah, which is basically the anuswara, which is and you have right? So a, I, u, u, r, l, a, I, o, au, aha. Yep. So is just one small circle. Is two small circles. Yeah. So let's see it once again. A, A, I, I, U, U, R, R, L, L, A, A, I, O, like that. Right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 5. 14 basic vowels, and you have the two commonly used ayogavahas. And right? and that's pretty much the basic vowels, right? Yeah, technically, Anuswara and the Visarga is not a vowel, but I suppose these days we treat it as part of vowels. So yeah, so all this 16 initial your vowels and ayogavahas, the swaras and ayogavahas, as we said, you don't have to worry about this. It's same as Tamil. If you speak Tamil, you know this. This is pretty much similar to Tamil as well. You should know it. This looks like Tamil. It has 2 dots on the side, like Tamil E. So it's fine. The A is also like a Tamil A. Let me create a new one. So the A, it's like the Tamil A, where it goes, it has a huge loop. Yeah, it's not as big as that, but if you know what I mean. And you have your A, where it sort of has the Tamil A as well. And the A, I said, you can take the Tamil A. You can sort of like back form, right? The Grantha. Just remember that, right? If you squint the Tamil A, it looks like Grantha A, right? So that's solved. This is not commonly used, right? You don't have to worry about that. R, L, and L. So you have your R, which is sort of like 2 snakes, right? Wrapped around each other. And you have your I, right? And which is basically 1 single dot, 1 single circle, and aha. You have basically 2 circles. But technically, you pretty much have to learn pretty much, if you count this 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 5, right? Out of the 16 letters that you have seen, yeah. And if you know Tamil, only at least 5 of this will be new to you, yeah. Just to retrack again, we'll again go through only these 5 different symbols. That will be our A, E, R, and aha, right? Everything else, if you know how to read Tamil, you can sort of guess what it is. And also you have the I. Yeah. So that's about the vowels. And again, if you have any questions, just post it. And we'll, okay, so vowels is over. Maybe I can take some questions now before we move to the consonants, right? The first question I have, are the 2 symbols offset in height for R? Technically it is. So when you have R, okay, it has to start from the bottom, right? It's in the middle. But since you're handwriting, it doesn't matter. I write it from the beginning, but if you see in print, it usually starts from the middle section of the line. Yeah. So that's done. So that's done. Then is vowels. No, they got it. It went away. Okay, are the alpha aligned on top, middle, or bottom like English? No, it's pretty much like Tamil. It sits on the baseline. So if you have let me draw two lines. If you have like two lines, you pretty much write it on the line. Of course, letters can go below the line because it's Grantha, but usually the baseline is like Tamil. It sits on top of the line. Right. So that's done. It's a vowel called Uyireluth in Grantham also. Nope. It's Ach technically in Sanskrit, or Swaras, Swaraha, if you have to be, you want to use the Sanskrit plural. Why is Letwork Hrasva A and Hrasva not that in Grantha? Because Sanskrit doesn't have it. As in, like, mainstream Sanskrit doesn't have the short A and short O. There are certain very specific situations where you can pronounce certain letter as A and O in Sanskrit, but they are very rare, right? For normal Sanskrit, A and O, it's not there. And Grantha is used to write Sanskrit, so it doesn't have A and O, but only A and O. So that's done. If one knows Malayalam, will they be play Grantha? Sort of, you can, but you need to like squint your eye a lot to learn Grantha, to read Grantha. Can write village of this Lipi in. Okay, I can do that. And okay, does it matter? So for Ru, again, we're talking about handwriting. So if I have a line here, these are my two lines. I write like this, but I assume some might write like this. But it doesn't matter. But usually it has to be like above the baseline. But if you want like slightly go beneath the baseline, it's fine. It's handwriting. But on print, mostly it's like sits on the baseline. So that's done. So yeah, let's recap once more before we go to the consonants, right? So just to repeat, A, A, I, I, U, U, R, R, L, L, A, I, O, how, and you have and aha. So that's it. The 14 vowels of Sanskrit on the two additional Ayogavahas. Yeah. So let's move to the consonants, right? The Vyanjanas or Hal. however you want to call it. And we can start with like Tamil has around like how many vowels, how many consonants?
Before we move, there is one question about the Dirgha Rukaram and Lukaram.
Okay.
The question on the Valayam.
Okay, right. Dirgha Rul and Valayam, that's starting on top or bottom. So, okay. Yeah, we are Ru, right? So this is your line, right? Let's say this line. It goes slightly below. Yeah. So yeah, we are Lu. It goes, yeah. It goes slightly below. Right. So Tamil has 18. Sanskrit has a lot more. So we'll see how many vargas we can cover, right? I aim to complete all the vargas now. So again, it's simple, right? You have to know that Sanskrit and Grantha have the same ancestor, and Grantha and Devanagari pretty much have the same ancestor, right? So if you know Devanagari letter, if you squint a bit, you kind of make it look like Grantha, right? So let's start with the Kavarga, which is Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, and Nga, right? You have the Alpaprana Ka, which is same as Tamil Ka. You have the Mahaprana Kha with the Ha sound. Then you have Ga as in Ganga, and you have Gha as in Ghosha, and you have Nga, right? So let's go through that. So Ka, right? It looks like Tamil Ka, right? A few things. It needs a small bump here and a small curve here. Yeah. You start like Tamil Ka, but you bump it a bit, go around, and loop it a bit. Yeah. So this is Ka, right? So make sure that you do this and this, right? And it kind of looks like A, right? But you can see that there is a thing going up, and this one is like a bit more rectangular, right? Where this is just a loop, and it doesn't have a bump here. There's no bump here. There's a bump here. So let's go this because it's a bit confusing. We'll go it once more. You have your Ka, and this is Ah. Yeah, so this is Ka, and this is right. You have to look for this protrusion here, and this is a bit more rectangular. And there's a bump here. It forms a loop here, right? So you can differentiate between Ka and Ah, right? Then we have our Kha, the Mahaprana Kha. So, right. So which is basically, it looks like Tamil Va. So it looks like Tamil va, but it isn't. So Tamil va, also Grantha va, right? It looks like this, yeah. For kha, this nose, okay, let's call it a nose, yeah. So it has to be a bit bigger, right? And it has a small thing here. Yeah, it doesn't go it just has a small curve here, which makes it kha. Yeah. And I personally try to make it a bit different than va. So if I have a line here, so this my face is my line. So this is a va. I kind of dip the nose beneath the line to make it look different. You can also do that. That's fine. To make it different from va. I personally do that because it looks so different from va. But in print, it's most common to find it. Okay, let me delete it, make it bigger. So if you have a line here, right? So this is your va, right? I tend to write like this because then it's much clearer. But in print, you will find it like this, right? Let me erase it a bit. You will find it like this, but by the shape of the big nose, you know that it's kha. Yeah. Again, to 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 people who know Devanagari, you can take the Devanagari kha and you can kind of morph it into Grantha ka. So you can take this, remove the loop, and pretty much you'll get Grantha ka, right? So that's kha. Then you have ga, as in Ganga. It's a very beautiful letter. I personally like it. Right? This ga. Some people will write it without it's going down. That's also fine. In print, you will find it like this, without the loop, the thing coming, the descender coming down. But I personally like writing like this because it looks prettier. But in print, usually you find it like this without the dip. Yeah, you can write both ways. It's fine. That's ga, which is ga, right? And then you have kha. Yeah. And then you have gha, the Mahaprana gha. Right. That would be again. You can see the similarity. Basically, you take the Indika. So this is gha, right? Right again. Gha. Where it's like va, but if va had another belly. Yeah. So that's gha. Then you have na. Oh, sorry.
Gha was not visible.
Okay, let me. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Sorry, wait, give me a minute. I think my connection got disconnected. Okay, let me share my screen again. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? Yep, it's visible now. So let's start again. Sorry about that. I didn't know that. So we have gha, right? Which is basically similar to Devanagari. We have like 3 prongs. It also has 3 prongs. You can take it. Right. So we start like a va and add another one. So that's gha, right? Then the last one, the nga. So it's you write an e and put a small line below, right? So this is nga. This is nga, right? But remember, this is e. All right. The important bit is like this line, right? This line makes it a nga. Without that line, it will be an e. Right? That's important, right? So let's go to the kavarga once more. We have ka, kha, ga, gha, and your na. So it'll be ka, kha, ga, kha, na. Right. Okay, I can write this. Ka 2, ka 3, and ka 4. Right. So that's your kavarga, right? Then comes cha. Right. This is cha. Right. Again, it looks similar to Tamil, but actually it isn't. Sorry, it looks different from Tamil, but actually it isn't. It's actually very similar to Tamil if you think about it. So if you take the Tamil cha and sort of play around with it, you get the Grantha cha, right? So that's cha. Right. Again, some people might also write like this in handwriting. That's fine. So you don't have to always do this. If it's difficult, you can have a loop. That's fine. But in print, we'll mostly see it like this with a straight line. Then you have the Mahaprana cha, which is basically cha. Then the next one is easy. Everybody knows this. Ja. The same as Tamil ja. Right. And then we have the Mahaprana. Ja. Ja. So you have cha, cha, ja, ja. And the last one is nya. Right? So the last would be nya. Right? And it again looks slightly different from Tamil, but technically it isn't. If you take the Tamil nya, it used to be written like this, right? If you write, if it written fast, and this basically became this, right? So basically, you can take the Tamil nya and twist it to become Grantha nya, because technically they both have the same source. When it got typeset, they superficially got two different forms. But if you look at it in handwriting, they pretty much can look the same. Yeah. So that's our nya, which is basically you have to write ku and put something here. Right? But that's wrong, but it's basically you start here and start here. Right? That's nya. Yeah. So we have here cha, 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 ja, ja, and you have your nya. So you have your cha, which is then you have your cha, and you have cha, same as Tamil cha. Then you have ja, then you have nya. Right. So that's a cha varga. Yep. Ka, cha, nya. Then you have the ta varga. It's similar. It's easy. So the Grantha ta is basically Tamil ta with a line. And this is ta. Right. And you have tha, the Mahaprana, which looks like the Devanagari tha, but without the line and the hanging on the Shiroreka. Right. This is tha. Right. Just important that you have to write like a small line beneath the ta. And then you have the and the. The and the look similar. The only difference is the loop here, right? So again, this is the and this is dha. Right? And the last one, it's very, very easy because it's same as Tamil. It's just right? So let's do it once more. We have here t, th, d, dh, and na. So yeah, t, right. That's the Tavarga. Then let's go to Ta. In fact, yeah, we can do it later. Just we don't have time. So let's recap the consonants. We have ka, kha, ga, gha, nga, cha, cha, ja, jha, nya, ta, tha, da, dha, and na. Right. So these three are very similar to Tamil. This is pretty much the same as Tamil. This is pretty much the same as Tamil. This is again similar to Tamil, yeah. Right. And Gha is sort of similar to Devanagari Gha. Right? It has the same, the three prongs. Yeah. So once you know cha, cha is basically a loop that goes within. So that's easy, right? You can remember that. Once you know da, we just again have to do a loop, small loop inside, which makes it as a Mahaprana, da, right? The only thing you might have to remember distinctly would be like the ja, right? It looks a bit more complicated. Again, ja is it doesn't occur that often in Sanskrit anyway, so it's fine. And then you have the g, and you have your k, right? Just to summarize, this is your v, and this is your k, either like this or like this, yeah. So this part is bigger and bolder, yeah. Same way, you have your e, but once you do a line, it becomes a ng, right? So this is e, but this is ng, right? Same way, you have your a, which has a line on the top, and this is more sort of square, and you have your ka, right, which has a bump, and there's a small loop here, right? So let's write it once more, and then we'll start taking the questions. Yeah. So we saw the vowels today, which is a, e, okay, e, U. U. R. R. L. L. A. I. O. Ow. Those are the 14 vowels. And you have the two Ayoga Bahas, which is basically and aha, right? Now, for the consonants, we had ka, kha, ga, gha, na, cha, cha, ja, ja, nya, tha, tha, da, dha, and na, right? This line is important here, and this line is important here, right? So we still have the tavarga and the pavarga on the avargas, right? Yeah, sure, and yeah, and right. We'll do that in we'll do that next week, right? I think we have covered like 16 plus what 15 lots of letters already. So yeah, we can take questions now. That's it. If you have any questions, I suppose we can unmute you now. Let me stop sharing my screen. Right.
So I have unmuted the first person.
So, is there a follow-up text? I mean, okay, you showed us the equivalent, the Devanagari to the Grantha and everything. But for me to, be able to recapitulate all that you said, is there a material?
There is everything on the slides. Please go through the slides.
In that Grantha workshop.ppt?
Yeah, there's a links to like 4 ebooks you can follow.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
So next person.
Deep, you're unmuted. You can speak now.
Deepthi, can you please unmute and okay, we will move to the next person.
Yeah. Devika.
Namaskar, Mahodaya.
Yeah.
Everything was very clear, Mahodaya. I would just like to know where can we find the notes for the workshop?
Again, the slides have linked to lots of ebooks that you can follow up with.
Where can I find it, Mahodaya?
Vidya,
I'm
can
just
you?
typing it again. So it is on the, I've put the message in the chat as well.
Yeah.
There's a folder, a Google Drive folder in which you will find 4 materials.
Okay.
Aravind, you're muted.
Namaskaram, sir. This is Arvind here. So I already, like 10 years back, I got your book that you have published, virtualvinodh.com, the Grantha Lipi resources. Would you also be able to like give a option to buy those if they are interested to purchase it? The one with the black cover.
I mean, it's an ebook. It's free.
It's free. Okay. Okay. Sure.
Like,
I have
yeah.
I have one question for the R and R, right? The Dirgham, for the Dirgha version, the Valayam, right? That in your book, the Valayam is actually on the top. In the R and L, if you really see. But when you drew, you actually drew it in the bottom.
I mean, it's handwriting. You can put wherever you want. I mean, like I do it at the bottom.
Okay.
I mean, the printed have convention, but it's in handwriting, right? I usually just start in the middle. Again, it's personal
No,
choice.
not that one, not that one. Like the Dirgham, the Kal Eluthu, right? The Kal Eluthu that you put, you have on the printed version, you have the, it's like a 3, and it's like the top of the 3 has like the circle. Whereas when you wrote, the bottom of the 3 had a circle.
Oh, right. Again, it's a handwriting quirk. Sorry, it's a handwriting quirk.
Okay, sure.
When you handwrite, right, you put it's a handwriting quirk. Technically,
Okay.
it
So
should be
if
like
both the ways you can write it, right? Can write it both the ways.
It's a handwriting. It doesn't matter because there's no thing of confusion. You can't confuse anything else. There's only one loop.
Okay.
So it's fine.
Okay. So
But in print it has a very specific form. I know what you mean. In print, it starts at the top. But when you write, eventually naturally try to cover the bottom.
Cover the bottom. Okay.
But so it's not that confusing. But
and after the end of the lessons, every lesson you have dharmo rakshati rakshitaha, right? That is the thing on the end of the book after every lesson. Okay. But how did you get like all these Buddhist sutras, right? How did you get all these
I
slokams?
think we have to take this offline. Sorry, people are waiting.
Okay.
You can drop me an email. You can talk about that. Yeah.
She said she was not able to unmute. So now she is able to mute.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, thank you. So actually, in many inscriptions, I see that the Tamil script and the Grantha script are used together.
Yeah.
So is through Aksharamukha, the browser version, or even the app, is it possible to write both of them together?
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that.
Okay, so actually, I did a cursory glance of the browser version, but
I can just, if you drop me an email, we can talk about it later.
Sure, I think I've already sent an email about that.
Yeah, I can tell you how. I can tell a little the email.
Sure, thank you so much.
No worries. Niranjan.
Can you please unmute and speak? Okay, let's move to the next person and then Sri Ramani had another question.
Yeah.
So this is a question where, if I will go through again all what you said, but
Mhm.
I have a document which is basically an image text of Grantha Lipi.
Mhm.
So I will try to at least read one line and share. If I have questions, share it back.
If you can actually recognize few letters, right, that's already a big thing.
Okay.
Niranjan is again here. Niranjan, can you unmute? Okay, he's not here. Okay, let's go to Heramnath.
Hello Vinod. Thanks for this session. My small suggestion is, can you show me a real text which you taken from any of the text, lecture, so that it will be easy for us to map it out with the current vowels and consonants.
Like, what do you mean?
You have any books, right, which is written on Grantha. So if you can
We can do that, but we haven't covered enough materials yet to see it. We still have to see the other combinations. So we don't know enough yet to start already reading like actual letters, actual words.
Okay, thanks.
So we'll do it from at least second or like third session.
Thanks, Vinod.
No worries.
So
if that's it, okay, Q&A.
And then there are some questions. So for the Devanagari Gnya and everything, I think when he comes to the Samyukta Aksharas.
Have include Samyukta Aksharas, yeah.
Yes. There are a couple of questions about Cha and Kha, right, once again.
Okay, I can do that. That's not a problem. I can quickly do that. Yes. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, there's a whiteboard session. I never knew that. Okay, let's try that one. This is Cha, right? And this is Kha. There we go.
So unless anybody else has any questions, we can wind up the session for the day.
Yeah.
And
how old is Grantha? 1,500 years old, give or take. Okay, start from the Pallavas. So, and that's it. Thanks everybody for attending, and I'll see you guys next week, I guess. Ciao.